The city has secrets, you know, places it forgets, on purpose. The old Westbrook Asylum is one of them. A skeletal wreck on the edge of town, a place whispered about in hushed tones. They say it's haunted, cursed, whatever. I never believed in that stuff. To me, it was just a pile of bricks and memories. But I lost something important, something I couldn't replace. A family heirloom, a locket that slipped from my pocket during a stupid dare a week ago. I had to go back. I told myself it would be quick. In and out. I was wrong. The sun was setting as I slipped through a gap in the chain-link fence. The air immediately felt heavier, colder. Dust motes danced in the fading light that streamed through shattered windows. My flashlight beam cut a nervous path through the gloom, revealing peeling paint, overturned gurneys, and the scattered debris of a place left in a hurry. The silence was the first thing that got to me. It wasn't just quiet. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket of silence that felt like it was pressing in on me from all sides. I started on the ground floor, my footsteps echoing unnervingly in the massive, empty halls. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding small and foolish. Only the echo answered. I tried to focus, retracing my steps from the dare. We had run through the main lobby, up the grand staircase, and into the west wing. That's where I'd tripped. The locket must be there. As I moved deeper into the asylum, the atmosphere began to shift. A single light bulb flickered erratically at the far end of a long corridor. On, off, on, off. It cast long, dancing shadows that seemed to twist and writhe just at the edge of my vision. I swear I saw them move, stretching like long skeletal fingers reaching for me. I blinked, and they were gone. Just shadows. My mind playing tricks on me, I told myself. It had to be. Then came the noises. At first, it was subtle, a soft scuttling sound from the room next to me, like a rat, but it was too heavy for a rat. Then, a distinct sound of footsteps from the floor above. Slow, deliberate. Drag, step, drag, step. I froze, holding my breath, straining my ears. The sound stopped as suddenly as it began. My heart was a drum against my ribs. "It's just the old building settling," I whispered, the words tasting like a lie. I pushed on, my flashlight beam trembling. I reached the west wing, the floor littered with rotting files and broken glass. This was the place. I started searching, sweeping my light across the grimy floorboards. That's when I saw them. Scrawled on the walls, in what looked like dried dark brown paint, were symbols. They were strange, geometric patterns that seemed to pulse and shift if you stared at them for too long. They weren't graffiti. They felt ancient, intentional. A cold dread, thick and oily, started to seep into my bones. What was this place? A whisper slithered through the air, right next to my ear. It was a single, indecipherable word, spoken in a dry, raspy voice. I spun around, my light slicing through the darkness. Nothing. No one was there. My blood ran cold. I wasn't alone. I knew it with a certainty that defied all logic. I was being watched. The feeling was palpable, 1,000 unseen eyes boring into my back from every dark corner, every shattered window, every gaping doorway. I was about to run, to forget the locket and just get out, when my light caught a glint of metal from beneath a pile of moldy patient records. The locket. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost made my knees buckle. I lunged for it, pushing aside the decaying paper. But it wasn't just the locket. Beneath it was something else. A small wooden box, intricately carved with the same disturbing symbols I'd seen on the walls. It was humming. Not a sound, but a low vibration that I could feel through the soles of my shoes, traveling up my spine. My rational mind screamed at me to leave it, to grab my locket and run. But curiosity, that fatal human flaw, took over. My hand trembled as I reached out and lifted the lid. Inside, resting on a bed of faded velvet, was an object that defied description. It was a shard of obsidian, impossibly black, that seemed to swallow the light from my flashlight. It wasn't just dark. It was an absence of light, a piece of pure void. As I stared into it, I felt a pull, a dizzying sensation like falling into an endless abyss. The whispers returned, louder now, a chorus of voices swirling around me, speaking in a language I didn't understand, but felt in my soul. There were promises of knowledge, of power, of things no human was meant to know. I knew I shouldn't touch it. Every instinct I had was blaring like an alarm. This was a forbidden thing, something wrong. But the pull was too strong. My fingers brushed against its cold, smooth surface. The moment I made contact, the world exploded. The flickering light bulb down the hall shattered. A cacophony of noise erupted all at once. Doors slammed shut down the corridor, one after another. The sound of running feet pounded from all directions. Above me, below me, all around me. A woman's scream, filled with sheer terror, echoed from somewhere deep within the building, then was abruptly cut off. The air grew frigid, my breath pluming in front of my face. The symbols on the walls began to glow with a faint, sickly green light. The shadows, they weren't just moving anymore. They were solidifying, taking shape. Tall, gaunt figures, with too many joints and faces that were just blurs of darkness. They weren't in the corners anymore. They were stepping out into the hall, turning their blank faces toward me. Panic, pure and primal, finally took hold. I dropped the box, the shard of obsidian clattering to the floor. The whispers in my head crescendoed into a deafening roar. My own mind was no longer a safe place. I was lost in a storm of confusion and paranoia. Were the figures real? Was any of this real? The line between reality and hallucination blurred, and then vanished completely. I felt a presence right behind me, a cold breath on my neck. I didn't dare turn around. I opened my mouth to scream, but what came out wasn't my voice. It was a sound I had never heard before, a guttural shriek that was both mine and not mine, a harmony of terror with 100 other voices screaming in my head. My flashlight fell, its beam spinning wildly across the floor, the walls, the ceiling, illuminating a chaotic dance of glowing symbols and encroaching, impossible shapes. The last thing my light caught was my own reflection in a shard of broken mirror on the floor. But the face looking back at me wasn't my own. The eyes were wide with a terror I recognized, but the mouth was stretched into a silent, screaming grin that was utterly inhuman. And behind my reflection, a dark hand with long spindly fingers was reaching out, about to rest on my shoulder. Then, the light went out. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark. What do you think happened next? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy stories that explore the shadows, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into the unknown. Stay safe out there.